Last night didn't necessarily go the way that Marco Rubio needed it to go, but he does still have one person who very strongly believes in him. And that person is Marco Rubio. And so he brought that person on to Jake Tapper's show to discuss the results and why he doesn't feel like Trump totally just clobbered him last night.
Not a great night for you. The past week, you've been relentlessly hammering Donald Trump. Tonight, he won state after state after state. Is it possible that your quarrel is not so much with Donald Trump as it is with Republican primary voters?
No, I think you're misanalyzing the night. Look, we're going to pick a major number of delegates in virtually every state on the map. Tonight was supposed to be Ted Cruz's night. He said he was going to end the campaign tonight in the southern states. He'll walk away with 2 states, his home state, and where he won't get all the delegates, and his neighboring state in Oklahoma, where he also won't get all the delegates. I also think it's important to understand this is a very unique election. Donald Trump is not someone that the Republican support is going to come after me and say, hey, we need everyone out of the race. Let's rally around the front runner now for the good of our party. The contrary is true. The fight is to save the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln and Reagan, from someone who is not just a con artist, but who refuses to criticize the KKK. He's pretending that he's some sort of man of the people. I hear him talk about immigration.
Senator, you keep saying that, and he keeps winning states, and you're talking about Virginia, and that's another state that Donald Trump won, and I'm just wondering if there's a certain amount of denial that you're in about this race.
No, Jake. No, because if you look, again, we're in the winner-take-all phase of this. You know this is about delegate count. This is not a traditional race.
So it's interesting because I feel like Tapper's questions were worded interestingly. They were a bit dismissive, a bit insulting, but maybe I'm being too harsh on him there. Although, the substance of what Tapper was saying was largely true, I think. Marco Rubio is obviously pretending to be doing better than he was. We'll get to the actual delegate counts because you heard sort of a vague reference there from Rubio. But I also largely agree with what Rubio was saying. It is a unique election in that if it was anyone other than Trump, it'd be over. Every single elected Republican politician would be like, move on, Joe. But they're not doing that because of the unique characteristics that we have. But to be fair, and to go back to what Jake Tapper was saying, when he says we're fighting for the heart of the party, look, you're trying to stop Trump. That's true. But his successes are coming from the voters. And so, to some extent, his beef is with the voters, actually.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. Jake Tapper might be my favorite guy in the mainstream media. So are there points where I disagree with him? Of course, right? And have I yelled at him in the past? I don't remember, but probably. Okay. But he usually asks the toughest questions, and it's usually even-handed. Not in any particular interview. I'm saying even-handed to Republicans, Democrats, and different kinds of Republicans and different kinds of Democrats. So here, I think that he's largely asking fair questions. Like there was all this talk of, especially from the Rubio campaign, of, oh, wait till later when we start winning. And I think this is a very, very fair time to ask, when is later coming? Yeah. Right? Wasn't this supposed to be later?
Some of the areas of Mars, perhaps.
Right. Now, on the other hand, there's always this pressure at around this time, after South Carolina, and certainly after Super Tuesday, the press, one of their favorite things is, when are you going to get out? When are you going to get out? When are you going to get out? Oh, I get out. Why do you guys care so much? It's a little trite, right? To go back to that. Now again, Tapper's not a trite guy, and I think it's fair to ask. And the essence of the question is, wait a minute, what is it about the Republican Party that likes Donald Trump that you are not resonating with? So that's a super fair question that you could have asked right after New Hampshire, right? And you could ask it today, and you could probably ask it a couple of weeks from now. And there's not a good answer for that for Marco Rubio or any of the other Republicans, because the correct answer is, well, our parts of our party are deeply racist. And look, they also don't like the establishment. And all the answers are bad for Marco Rubio. Yeah. Because one is he's got to throw his party under the bus, which he can't do, right? Number two is he's got to throw himself under the bus. And I look like a standard senator politician with my talking points of my donors, so they don't like that. Yeah. That's true. That's the real answer, but Rubio can't give that answer. That's why it's a good question. He should be put in a tough spot, and he is. And he is.
Yeah. And look, we were talking 2 years ago about, is Marco Rubio potentially one of the ones that they're going to try to push to be the president because he has some crossover appeal amongst Hispanic voters who might not otherwise be that interested in Republicans, but maybe they'll take a look. But there is a dark side to that. He's Hispanic. Ted Cruz is Hispanic. Some of those Trump supporters, look, they're more vocal generally about hating Arabs and African Americans. They hate Hispanics too, and so there's some percentage that will never vote for him simply because of where he was born and the origins of his family and all of that.
So I want to dispel the notion that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing, because he knows exactly what he's doing. And in this context, that's why Donald Trump says, "Oh, I don't know if Ted Cruz is eligible to run," and then he, that one he doesn't even walk back. Then he says, "Marco Rubio, I don't know if he's eligible to run." Based on what? The guy's born in Florida, right? No, because he's Cuban. And then he walks that back. He'll go a step too far and then walk it back. Klan, I don't know what the Klan is. I don't know what David Duke is. I had a problem with my earpiece, even though I said David Duke 7 times, by the way, in an interview with Jake Tapper. Right?
That's true.
Right? And then the next day he'll walk it back. No, I already denounced David Duke 2 days ago and 6 months ago. I'm walking it back. But meanwhile, the message is out there. And today I read how people who are white supremacists don't believe that Donald Trump is not on their side. They don't believe his disavowal of white supremacists. Because they understood the very large wink he gave them.
Because they have to put up that fake front some of the time when they go out, because they know, I really want to say the N-word, but I know that I'm not supposed to. So they know that they've had to control themselves and put forward a front of tolerance. And so they're like, oh, he's just doing that. He understands what's really going on. It's like Jimmy always says, that racists think everybody is racist.
Yeah, and so let's one more time go to the two parts of this equation. Marco Rubio is never going to win. I said it from day one. He's a boy. But that's part of the issue. But the bigger part of him being a boy is that he's an order taker. So that's what I'm getting at. Not that he looks young or he's immature, in the sense that Donald Trump stands up there and goes, "I'm my own man," right? And he's got 1,000 different problems, but he does his little, gorilla move up there on the debate stage. Yeah. And Marco Rubio says, "Okay, donors, what would you like? I'm going to give you whatever you want." And people are sick of that.
Yeah.
So that kind of standard politician is not going to win today. It's just not going to win on the Republican side. Yeah. On the Democratic side, apparently she has a 50-50 chance. Okay. But so that's the state of play. And then the other part of it is that even Tapper, can't ask a question that should be asked, which is, come on, isn't at least a third of your party, the 33% that vote for Donald Trump consistently, they did in the first 4 states, and on Super Tuesday, 34% voted for Donald Trump. Those guys are unshakable, not no matter what he says, but because of what he says. Yeah. Isn't at least a third of your party deeply racist?